Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and the iPhone 15 Plus and the iPhone 15 Pro Max have been out for a little while now and offer great experiences depending on what you're actually looking for. So I thought we'd compare everything from the cameras to the battery life, speakers, and more. Now the first thing, of course, is the price. The iPhone 15 Plus is less expensive at $899 up to $1,199. However, you still have to add $30 if you buy it outside of a carrier and it's unlocked. It's offered in 128, 256, and 512 gigabyte options. The iPhone 15 Pro Max is more expensive at $1,199 and goes up to $1,599. It has 256, 512, and 1 terabyte options. Now, as far as the colors, we have some very light, subtle colors on the 15 Plus this year. We have blue, black, pink, yellow, and green. With the 15 Pro Max, we have this natural titanium color along with a blue titanium, black, and white. I tend to go for the blue or the natural one, but let me know which colors you like best in the comments below. Now, when it comes to the overall design, this is where they're very different. The 15 Plus is actually aluminum around the outside edge. It does have glass on the back and the front, and it's matte on the back this year with a really nice texture overall. So I think they both look pretty nice. Of course, on the 15 Pro Max, we have titanium this year, and both of them sort of curve around the edges over to the glass on the front and the back, making them very smooth to hold overall. If we go around the outside edge, they're very similar. Of course, we have our power sleep wake button. We have our millimeter wave antenna. On the top, there's not a whole lot there except for antenna lines. On the other side, we have our volume buttons. And above that on the 15 Plus, we have our silent switch that we've had for years. And on the 15 Pro Max, we have an action button where you can enable it to do things such as turn on the flashlight or set it for whatever else you'd like. So it's a little more functional this year than just silencing the phone. On the bottom, we actually have USB-C on both of them. Very similar layouts on both, but USB-C is different depending on which device. On the 15 Plus, it's slower and only supports USB-C 2 speeds instead of USB-C 3 with up to 20 times faster transfer speeds on the Pro Max. Now, the weight is definitely noticeable, not hugely different, but something you notice when you pick up either one. The 15 Plus is 7.09 ounces or 201 grams, where the 15 Pro Max is 7.81 ounces or 221 grams. So there is a slight difference there. There's also a thickness difference when you place them side by side. So as you can see here, the 15 Pro Max is slightly thicker than the 15 Plus. You don't technically really see this just glancing at them, but you can feel it the second you pick them up. So you'll notice that right away when you pick them up that one is a little bit thinner than the other. Of course, with a case or a screen protector on it, that's going to make a difference as well. Now, the displays are a little bit different in that we have an always-on display on the 15 Pro Max and also 120 Hz ProMotion. The overall resolution and size is identical in every way at 6.7 inches and 2,796 by 1,090 pixels at 460 pixels per inch. They go to the same 2,000 nits of brightness outside. In HDR, everything's identical that way, but we again have that always-on display and ProMotion for overall smoothness. You can see the difference here in slow-mo where we swipe back and forth on the 15 Pro Max, and it's just much smoother. It's hard to convey in a video, but it's definitely a smoother experience if you're scrolling through apps and more. You can definitely experience it, and it just feels smoother and faster overall. Now, both this year have the dynamic island, so there's no differences there whatsoever. Playing music, maybe you play a song, and then you swipe home, they go to the dynamic island. So no differences there. Press and hold, you'll get the song to pop up, and then you can bring other apps into it as well. So it's nice that they both have it. No differences in usability there whatsoever. Now, as far as PWM, pulse width modulation, or the way the displays actually control brightness, this actually varies from device to device. The 15 Pro Max shouldn't bother anyone's eyes that's sensitive to this. It's basically flickering the display faster or slower to control the brightness. It's how most OLED displays work. However, the 15 Plus, you can actually see this at 240 frames per second, where it could bother your eyes in day-to-day use. If you're bothered by this, about 1 in 10 people are, including myself. It can cause you to get headaches or feel nauseated or just cause eye strain in general. So it's not very pleasant that way, but I think the 15 Pro Max would be the choice there if you definitely had the option, as it's much better on the eyes that way. When it comes to the speakers, they're mostly the same, but I thought I'd have you listen just to a sample on one of my videos to see what it's like so you can hear for yourself through my microphone. Both sound pretty good, but the 15 Pro Max seems to go slightly louder based off of what the Apple Watch is showing by about 2 to 3 decibels overall. But in general, they both sound great. They both have great stereo sound and decent audio. At the highest volumes, they may distort a little bit, and some people have complained about the earpiece at the top actually distorting a little bit when you're placing a phone call or something else. This seems to be a hardware issue. I haven't heard of many people having it solved via software. So if you're having that issue, I would have Apple actually check it out. When it comes to the batteries, the 15 Plus actually has a 4,383 milliamp hour battery, where the 15 Pro Max has a larger 4,422 milliamp hour battery. According to Apple, the 15 Pro Max gets 3 hours more of video playback, as well as 5 hours more of streamed playback. However, it gets 5 hours less of audio playback. So maybe there's some chip efficiency differences there, but in general, most will get you through the day. In fact, I've used both extensively and gotten through the day without a problem on either of them. Typically about 10 to 12 hours of screen on time at the very best with the 15 Pro Max, but usually at the end of the day, I'll have about 50% of my battery life left in general. So depending on how often you use this, if you're a very heavy user playing games or more, you may experience a difference. As far as overall speed, well, depending on what you're doing, that's going to give you a different result. The 15 Pro Max has the A17 Pro with 8 gigabytes of RAM, where the A16 Bionic has 6 gigabytes of RAM and is last year's chipset. You can see that in Geekbench 6 and within the benchmarks. And with benchmarks complete, you'll see on the left we have the 15 Plus that comes in at 2,632 for single core compared to 2,956 on the 15 Pro Max. Then for multi-core, we have 6,630 on the 15 Plus compared to 7,413. This only shows part of the story, as the overall experience will vary depending on what you're doing. So if maybe we want to go into a game, so we could load something simple such as Minecraft here, where I have 2 of them, and they may load the same. It just depends on what you're actually doing. So you'll see we have to allow it. Neither of them have been opened, so I thought we'd test this out. You'll see there it loaded a little bit faster on the 15 Pro Max. Again, we'll tap continue to continue. Give it a second to load the resource packs here. Then tap play. And I just wanted to show you in real time what it's actually like. We'll create a new world and then create, as it's hard to actually show in real world what the actual speed difference is. There's some efficiencies with the chipset on the A17 Pro compared to the A16 Bionic, but it just depends on what you're doing. So you'll see now we're already in the game on the A17 Pro on the 15 Pro Max, where it's still loading on the 15 Plus. The overall experience once you're in should be very similar, but the 17 Pro can actually play AAA games. So if you're playing this, you're not going to notice any smoothness differences. The draw distances should be basically the same and more. So the overall experience playing a game should be very similar. If we go into another app, such as Real Racing, you'll see the apps that I have are still open in the background. So that just shows you some RAM management. We'll go in, give it a second to load here, and we'll see how fast it is in real time. So they're neck and neck basically and very similar. However, I did notice a little stutter on the 16 Bionic processor on the 15 Plus. So you'll see we're in on both. The overall difference really is going to be with the display here. It seems much smoother on the 15 Pro Max, of course, with the ProMotion display. So we'll go into this circuit here and just show you what it looks like while it loads. It gives you an idea of what you can expect. And it's a little bit faster on the 15 Pro Max, but basically the same exact experience. So you can expect pretty much the same thing. So it's loading there, and now we're in. So both experiences should be fairly similar, but the overall experience in general will be a little smoother on the 15 Pro Max. Now, if we go back in, let's see how fast we can load Minecraft. We're back in, and you'll see it's just, again, loaded in RAM a little bit faster there on the 15 Pro Max, but within a half a second or so. Now, one other task I wanted to check as far as speed is exporting video. And here you'll see we're within iMovie. We'll just scroll over here. We have the exact same clip loaded on both, go all the way to the end, and you'll see it's a 50-second video. So not very intense, but if we tap done, then we go to share this. I'll bring in a stopwatch here and we can share the video and see how long it takes. So we'll hit save on all of them and start. And let's see what we've got as far as exporting the movie. It should be very similar on both, very fast, and you'll see we're almost a quarter of the way done. So we'll just wait for it to complete here. Typically, I'll have to wait a little bit longer, but being that this is less than a minute, you'll actually see that the 15 Pro Max is really much faster here with this video. And it seems to be slightly different. It just depends what you're doing with it. But when you're exporting a movie, both of them are going to be very fast, as they both have encoders on them that actually are for this. So we'll give it just a moment to complete. We're almost done. There we go. We're done on the 15 Pro Max already. The 15 Plus is slightly slower, but I've seen this vary depending on what you're actually exporting. Sometimes a longer project is actually faster. So that gives you an idea. You are going to get a little bit more speed out of the 15 Pro Max, but it's not so big that it's going to be minutes and minutes that you're going to have to wait unless the project is very, very long. Now, as far as the cameras go, there's quite a big difference depending on what camera we're talking about. The forward-facing camera on both is identical in every way, with the exception of some of the issues with the processor not using some of the features. So we both have 12 megapixel cameras on the front with an f1.9 aperture. However, the back is where they're very different. So of course, we have 3 cameras on the back of the 15 Pro Max and 2 on the 15 Plus. With the 15 Plus, we have a 48 megapixel sensor with an f1.6 aperture. We have a smaller sensor than the 15 Pro Max, and we also have an ultra-wide 12 megapixel f2.4. With the iPhone 15 Pro Max, of course, like I said, we have 3 cameras. We have a main 48 megapixel camera, f1.78, ultra-wide 12 megapixel f2.2, and a telephoto zoom 12 megapixel f2.8, which goes up to 5 times optical zoom. We also have the option to use LiDAR for sensing depth and maybe spatial video in the future with Apple Vision Pro. We can also use macro, and we also have digital zoom up to 25 times. Additionally, we have some more features that the 15 Plus does not have, such as the no telephoto lens or LiDAR. We don't have night mode portraits. We don't have macro mode. We also have no Apple Pro RAW, no ProRes, or no log recording. So you do have all of the other features, but not the ones I mentioned specifically. Now let's go ahead and take a look at how they actually compare in real-world tests with different photos and video. So I thought I'd show video stabilization as I'm walking down this trail, just handheld, holding them together, recording at the same time. So it gives you an idea of what the standard mode looks like. Now we're recording video while walking just to see what the stabilization is like on the forward-facing camera. They both have autofocus, the same sensor and everything, and you're hearing the microphone from the 15 Pro Max. With the 15 Plus, it should be pretty identical as they're the exact same sensor, and the only difference really is the processor processing the background. So let me know which one you think looks best and sounds best in the comments below. Now we're recording with the 15 Plus. This is just in 1x zoom. And if we go to ultra wide, you'll see it's nice and smooth, just like the 15 Pro Max. So that's an advantage. Back to 1x. It was a little bit jittery there for some reason. And then we can jump to 2x zoom. Unfortunately, we don't have a telephoto zoom, but we can zoom in using our fingers here, maybe to 5x or so. Then we can go in a little bit further if we want to as well. So it lets us go up to 6x digital zoom as well, back to ultra wide. So it gives you an idea of what they look like. Now we're recording with the camera, and if we switch to ultra wide, you'll see it's nice and smooth. On the 15 Pro Max, we'll zoom back to 1x, then we'll go to 2x here in a second, and then we can jump all the way up to 5x as far as the zoom, just like this. And you'll see it's pretty smooth. If I go all the way back to ultra wide, in general, it's pretty smooth, much better than what we had in previous generations. The overall photos and videos are going to be very similar, with the exception of being able to use ProRes with an external SSD on the 15 Pro Max. That makes a big difference if you're recording video. Otherwise, I think you'll be happy with the results of both, unless you want to use that telephoto lens. Now, both actually have car crash detection modes, as well as emergency SOS via satellite and roadside assistance. However, the modems inside are a little bit different. While we both have 5G with millimeter wave, we do have an updated modem on the 15 Pro Max with Wi-Fi 6E along with the Wi-Fi update, but both have Bluetooth 5.3. You will have faster download speeds on the 15 Pro Max and just better overall signal, it seems, in regular use. They're both IP68 certified for 6 meters for 30 minutes, and everything else is basically the same. We have iOS that should be supported for about the same amount of time, 5 up maybe to 7 years of security updates on both of them, and features should be similar as far as that goes, with the exception of some of the Pro features with the A17 Pro update with the processor. Otherwise, basically, they're the same experience. Now, if you're wondering which one you should choose, well, that really depends on not only your budget, but what you're looking for. If you have to have a ProMotion, well, go with the 15 Pro Max as far as the smoothness goes. If you have to have that telephoto zoom lens and Apple ProRes and ProRAW for photos, it's an easy pick. However, outside of that, the 15 Plus gets many more updates compared to its predecessor than what we got with the 15 Pro Max. So this is a great buy, especially if you can get it on a discount with trading in an old phone. So if you have something else laying around, maybe you want to upgrade from even an 11 Pro Max or something like that, you'd be pretty happy with this outside of not having ProMotion. But if you haven't had ProMotion before or the telephoto zoom and you don't care about that, this is actually a very nice upgrade this year. The overall texture, the way it feels, the regular usability is just a really great experience. However, for the price, if they're side by side, I would spend the extra money and get the 15 Pro Max just for the titanium frame, the additional features you get and more. But both of them are a great experience overall. But with a deal, the 15 Plus is going to be something you're going to be able to easily go to. In fact, my daughter uses the 14 Plus and is very happy with it. She doesn't really care about ProMotion and she doesn't care about that extra telephoto zoom lens. So it really just depends on what type of user you are. If you care about the cameras or not, as well as having AAA games on the A17 Pro. Let me know which one you chose, and if you're upgrading maybe to a 15 Plus or 15 Pro Max, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do, and if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.